done for Adam Schiff, because he created 3 years of a massive fallacy that did so much damage to this country and made us miss probably one of the most important stories of our lifetime. We were having hearings on impeachment while the coronavirus was exploding.
He became one of only 26 members of Congress in American history to be publicly shamed on the House floor, a rare and humiliating condemnation for promoting a conspiracy that tore the country apart. But for his most relentless critic, late-night host Greg Gutfeld, it wasn't a moment of solemn justice. It was the climactic punchline to a joke years in the making. The sight of Adam Schiff standing in the well of the House, defiant and unblinking as his colleagues voted to censure him, was the perfect ending to a political soap opera. How did one California congressman become the ultimate villain in a comedian's universe? A character so perfectly theatrical, so profoundly self-serious, that he practically wrote Gutfeld's monologue for him every single night.
M's pop their dentures when Schiff finally gets censored. And so the House condemns the lies of the man with the zombie eyes. Last night, the House voted on party lines to censure Adam Schiff for promoting the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, which was as believable as Brian Kilmeade getting fan mail. 2 for 2. Schiff becomes only the 26th member ever to be censured, but to his credit, he's still the only member to have a 12-inch neck.
The curb, and the irony is superb. He went crying to mommy on an app run by Chinese commies. Congressman Adam Schiff announced this morning he's running for U.S. Senate in California, which is guaranteed to boost U-Haul rentals headed for Texas. He unveiled the highly polished and produced political ad right on the heels of getting booted from the House Intel Committee. Coincidence? I think not.
To understand Greg Gutfeld's multi-year obsession with Adam Schiff, you have to start with the man himself, or rather the character Gutfeld saw. Before the endless investigations and dramatic impeachments, Schiff was, in Gutfeld's eyes, the perfect comedic target. He was a walking, talking caricature of Washington earnestness, a man seemingly devoid of a single ironic bone in his body. Gutfeld zeroed in on the physical details with savage precision. He began with the eyes, those wide, unblinking orbs that looked like they were permanently stuck in breaking news mode, giving him the appearance of a startled owl who just witnessed a magic trick. Gutfeld joked that Schiff's default setting was mild panic, as if he'd just realized he left the oven on in the middle of a classified briefing. Then there was the voice, a slow, hypnotic, almost robotic monotone that could turn a declaration of war into a sedative. Gutfeld mocked how Schiff could describe a parking ticket with the same grave intonation he used for a national crisis, draining all energy from a room while desperately trying to signal maximum urgency. Schiff didn't just look out of place. His suits, which Gutfeld said looked like they were from a bargain bin, labeled nervous accountants, and his high school debate team ties screamed of a man trying to blend in with the curtains. For Gutfeld, Schiff wasn't just humorless. He was a black hole of levity, a man whose Teflon ego allowed every joke, every jab, and every ounce of mockery to slide right off.
Hearings on impeachment while the coronavirus was exploding. We talked about that virus in green rooms, but we had to do this impeachment story. We had to show these hearings. It's all on him, man. He's got to go. They got to investigate him. They got to hold him accountable. I'm not going to say he should go to prison, but my evil twin will say he should go away to prison for a very long time. Congressman Schiff, how are you?
Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Gutfeld.
So, Congressman, I got to ask, how did it feel to have your ass chewed out like that in front of your colleagues?
Oh, well, I will say this, Mr. Gutfeld, it feels...
The real battle, the one that cemented Schiff in Gutfeld's comedic crosshairs, began with the Russia investigation. This was Schiff's grand debut on the national stage, and Gutfeld treated it like the premiere of a low-budget sci-fi film he couldn't wait to heckle. Gutfeld masterfully painted Schiff as a carnival barker standing outside a perpetually empty tent, promising a spectacular show that was always just about to start. Night after night, Schiff would appear on television, his eyes wide with feigned importance, teasing bombs bombshells and claiming he had more than circumstantial evidence of collusion that was hiding in plain sight. Gutfeld and his panel would watch, dissecting every vague promise and fact-free forecasts. They pointed out how Schiff's evidence was always just around the corner, a developing story that never quite developed. What truly fascinated Gutfeld was Schiff's unshakable commitment in the face of repeated failure. When one bombshell fizzled, he never apologized, never retracted, never even blinked. Instead, he would seamlessly pivot to the next baseless claim, digging himself deeper like a gambler at the poker table who, having lost his shirt, tries to bluff his way back with an Uno card. For Gutfeld, it was comedy gold, a man so deeply in love with his own narrative that reality itself was a minor inconvenience.
That and the fact that Schiff hasn't blinked since 1992. And he didn't take the news so well. The disgraced Democrat went on TikTok to complain. Behold.
Hello, I'm Congressman Adam Schiff with some troubling news. Today, Kevin McCarthy removed me from the House Intelligence Committee, all for doing my job, for holding Trump accountable and standing up to the extreme MAGA Republicans.
Oh my. So Adam Schiff now admits he should have been much more clear about how he unleashed the impeachment circus. Note, when a politician says they should be much more clear, they mean, I wish you hadn't caught me lying to your face.
I should have been much more clear, and I said so the minute it was brought to my attention that I was referring to the fact that when the whistleblower filed the complaint, we had not heard from the whistleblower. We wanted to bring the whistleblower in at that time, but I should have been much more clear about that.
You know, instead of trying to be clear, it might just save time if you just decided.
Just as the Russian narrative finally began to crumble under the weight of its own emptiness, Schiff pivoted to his next great performance, the Trump-Ukraine impeachment hearings. Gutfeld framed this not as a constitutional process, but as Schiff's one-man off-Broadway show, where he served as the writer, director, and undisputed star. He ran the hearings like a tyrannical director obsessed with close-ups of himself, interrupting witnesses and rearranging facts like stage props. The peak of this theatricality, and a moment Gutfeld would replay endlessly, was when Schiff delivered a parody of the Trump-Zelensky phone call. Instead of reading the actual transcript, Schiff fabricated dialogue, creating a damning, fictionalized version of the conversation and reading it into the congressional record with the gravitas of a Shakespearean actor. Gutfeld saw this as the ultimate exposure of Schiff's methods. When the facts don't fit the narrative, just invent new facts. But Gutfeld's critique soon turned darker and more urgent. While Schiff was busy auditioning for the role of America's chief prosecutor, a far more dangerous story was unfolding in the background. Gutfeld began hammering a devastating point. While Congress was consumed with Schiff's impeachment circus, the coronavirus was silently exploding across the globe. Lawmakers were having hearings, but the real conversations about the mysterious new virus were happening in green rooms and whispers. The impeachment led by Schiff wasn't just political theater anymore. In Gutfeld's view, it was a deadly national distraction.
It'd be bad when the Republicans took over, but it's far worse than we expected.
Cue the violins, people. But can he promise you this?
But I can promise you this is not the end of my fight for our democracy. This is just the beginning. Please join us and contribute today. Thank you.
Here's my question. How much will it cost for you not to run?
Schiff champions transparency, all the while saying the whistleblower might not testify because it's a safety concern, he maintains, because we all know CIA agents can't protect themselves against non-existent threats, or that our government can't protect him from your Aunt Sally.
Our primary interest right now is making sure that that person is protected. Indeed, now there's more than one whistleblower that they are protected. And given that we already have the call record, we don't need the whistleblower who wasn't on the call to tell us what took place during the call. We have the best evidence of that.
A key pillar of Schiff's power, according to Gutfeld, was his uniquely symbiotic relationship with the media. He wasn't just a source for reporters, he was their conductor, and they were his willing orchestra. Gutfeld accused Schiff of mastering the art of the strategic leak, feeding perfectly timed exclusives and almost facts to news outlets that would then broadcast them as gospel, often with dramatic breaking news chyruns. The media, in turn, treated Schiff like a cross between a wise prophet and a gritty super spy, hanging on his every word and amplifying his gravest warnings without question. Gutfeld dubbed this phenomenon the Schiff echo chamber, a closed loop where Schiff's claims were repeated and amplified until they took on the illusion of truth, regardless of the evidence. To Gutfeld, this was the height of hypocrisy. Schiff championed transparency while operating behind a fog machine of his own making. A man man obsessed with disinformation while dishing it out like Halloween candy. When Schiff eventually wrote a memoir about his fight for democracy, Gutfeld mocked it as fan fiction with footnotes, a self-congratulatory novel where the hero never did anything wrong and every villain wore a red tie.
People on the planet, and I guess he makes it work, Tyrus. But
does he?
But isn't it? I mean, I don't want to get mad about this because he's such a joke. But the fact that he isn't going to be really get any punishment.
Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Gutfeld.
Fortunately for Adam, not even Mitt Romney could help him. Everyone knew there weren't enough votes to convict. Even the media, their only way out of this hell, pretending that Mitt was a hero. Poor Adam. He really thought he had him. Well, we've talked about who won the impeachment trial. Now let's talk about who didn't. As I've said before, don't think the Dems aren't going to stop trying to find dirt on Trump. They'll look anywhere. Hell, they'll go to a local high school if they thought they'd find the
Full details about the conditionality of either the military aid or that meeting with the Ukraine president. It may not be necessary to take steps that might reveal the whistleblower's identity to do that.
Not necessary so much for transparency, but like everything, the Dems haven't thought this through. So not only are you going to impeach Trump, you're going to do it in secret, in the dark, reversing an election based on hearsay from some anonymous guy you will never ever see who has ties to Democrats.
Eventually, the political wind shifted, and the consequences Gutfeld had long predicted finally arrived. With Republicans taking control of the House, the tables turned on Schiff with brutal efficiency. First, he was publicly booted from the powerful House Intelligence Committee, the very platform he had used to launch his years-long crusade. Then came the ultimate humiliation, a formal censure vote on the House floor for his role in promoting the Russia hoax. Schiff's reaction was exactly what Gutfeld would have scripted. He didn't reflect or show a hint of contrition. Instead, he went on the attack, embracing a new role, the political martyr. He took to TikTok of all places, an app Gutfeld gleefully noted was run by Chinese commies, to post a highly polished video bemoaning his fate and claiming he was being silenced for doing his job. Gutfeld and his panel erupted in laughter. The man who had dominated the airwaves for years was now playing the victim. To Gutfeld, it was the final, most revealing act of a delusional performer, a man so wrapped up in his own myth that he couldn't comprehend he was simply facing the consequences of his own actions. The irony was superb. The man who led investigations was now facing an ethics probe himself. But the story doesn't end with a public shaming. Just as the dust settled from his censure, Adam Schiff announced his next audacious move, a campaign for the US Senate in California. For Gutfeld, this was undeniable proof that the show was far from over. Schiff wasn't retreating into obscurity, he was doubling down, aiming for a massive promotion. The man Gutfeld had spent years roasting as a failed prophet and a theatrical fraud was now asking for one of the most powerful seats in the country, a move Gutfeld joked was guaranteed to boost U-Haul rentals from California to Texas. The timing, coming on the heels of being kicked off his committee, was no coincidence. It was a calculated, opportunistic play, recasting his downfall as the heroic launchpad for his next chapter. This guarantees that Gutfeld's favorite target will remain in the spotlight, providing him with a bottomless well of fresh material for years to come. It's not a political comeback, it's just the setup for a sequel. In the end, Gutfeld's relentless takedown of Schiff was never just about policy disagreements. It was about persona and the profound disconnect between how Schiff saw himself and how millions of Americans saw him. He saw Schiff as a tragicomic figure who desperately wanted to be the hero in a grand historical drama, but was unknowingly starring in a political sitcom. Schiff carried himself as the last honest man in Washington, the solemn guardian of democracy, the soul of the republic. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld stood by with a smirk and a microphone, providing the laugh track the drama so desperately needed. As long as Adam Schiff continues to deliver his grave monologues, convinced he is saving the nation with every page turn of a declassified document, Gutfeld will be there, waiting for his cue. He'll be ready to remind everyone that the doomsday narrator is still on the air, warning of storms he helped create, and that the roast is far, far from over.